Hi, I'm Alex Newman, foreign correspondent with the New American Magazine, and today I want to talk to you about Al Gore and his newest climate cabal, the so-called Energy Transitions Commission. So Al the Goracle, St. Al the Gore, the climate guru who apparently invented the internet, at least that's what he would have us believe, now has a new plan to save humanity, right? For the low price of $15 trillion, Al Gore promised that he can save us all from global warming. He and his climate cabal, this ETC, the Energy Transitions Commission, put out a report just very recently. And in this report, they called for spending $300 to $600 billion per year on this so-called transition toward what they called a low-carbon economy. So just by total coincidence, I'm sure, a lot of the people who would be making this money, who would be transferring this money from your pocket into their bank account, happen to be sitting on this Energy Transition Commission. So don't let the name fool you. It's actually not any kind of government organization, although there are some bureaucrats and some UN bureaucrats on there. There's also a Chinese communist who works for the state council. But what they're saying, in a nutshell, is give us lots of money, use the coercive power of government to impose the policies we're demanding, and of course funnel lots of money into our bank accounts, and then we can save the world from global warming. And that's literally what the report says, that they can keep global warming, alleged man-made global warming, under 2 degrees Celsius if we give them all the money that they're demanding. Now, one of the key elements of their little report is this push for a price on carbon. Now, when they talk about carbon, really they're talking about carbon dioxide, the life-giving, essential to life gas that every human exhales. If you're watching this, you exhale carbon dioxide. You're exhaling lots of it right now. In fact, the average human exhales around 2 pounds worth of carbon dioxide per day, and this is wonderful. This is a wonderful news because that allows the plants to do photosynthesis and process the sun's energy and turn it into, what they need to live. Al Gore and his little climate cabal, with their $15 trillion, they want to put a price on CO2 emissions. So it wasn't clear from the report. They didn't say explicitly or not whether you would have to pay for the emissions that you emit when you breathe, but they do want to pay. They do want you to pay for the emissions on everything else. So your car, your electricity, your farm products, your food, everything else you should be expected to pay as part of this carbon price. And they say that by putting a price on carbon dioxide, that will encourage those mean old bad humans, such a plague on the earth, to quit consuming and quit emitting so much CO2. Well, frankly, this is all a big bunch of nonsense. We've done a number of videos and certainly huge amounts of articles at the New American exposing this entire fraud that is the man-made global warming catastrophic, alarmism that these guys have been pushing now since they finished with the global cooling scare back in the 70s and even into the early 80s. What they're saying is that CO2 is pollution, and that this pollution is going to heat the earth. Now, there's absolutely lots of evidence debunking this crazy idea. We've done tons of articles in the New American quoting even many of the scientists who worked on the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, saying that this is pseudoscience, this is absolute quackery. But for some perspective, the UN IPCC, they put together 73 different models, depending on how much CO2 and what was going to happen to the temperature. Every one of those models predicted that there was going to be increased warming as the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere increased. Every single one of those climate models, as you might have expected, was absolutely wrong. We've had going on 20 years now with virtually no warming, certainly no statistically significant warming, and that is a complete repudiation of every one of these climate models. And I say this a lot. You can put a monkey in a cage, give him some dice, and say, hey, monkey, roll these dice and predict the climate for us, and the monkey would have done better than the United Nations and their supercomputers and their, gargantuan billions of dollars on all this pseudoscience. So what we're dealing with here is an absolute fraud. Giving Al Gore and his cronies $15 trillion is not going to solve any kind of climate change issue. What it is going to do is it's going to enrich his cronies, and this becomes very clear reading the report by looking at the people on the report. for some perspective, we can go through some of the other people on this report. We have former U.S. Senator Timothy Wirth, who's now the Vice President of the UN Foundation, and this is a guy who was quoted in a magazine back in the 80s or maybe even into the 90s saying that even if the global warming theory is wrong, we have to keep pushing it because we'll be doing right by the environment and by wealth redistribution and social justice and all that. So that's one of the guys. Then, of course, we have a Chinese bureaucrat who literally works for the ruling state council. The state council is basically the ruling body of the communist Chinese dictatorship, which, of course, has murdered more humans than any other governing entity on the planet in all of human history. You, of course, have all the big oil billionaires, right? Royal Dutch Shell is one of the big ones that helped finance this report. So despite all the hysteria about, oh, big oil is funding the denial, actually, no, it's the other way around. Big oil, whether it's Exxon, BP, Mobil, Shell, all of these guys are funding the climate hysteria because they think they're going to get rich, right? Shell thinks that this is going to help its bottom line. They're hawking their natural gas as a solution to climate change, and so does this report. And conveniently, they're very well positioned in this market. So what we need to do here is laugh Al Gore out of the room. He's been wrong about everything. I was at the 2009 UN Climate Conference in Copenhagen, and I heard him say, oh, if we don't do all this, there's going to be no ice left in the Arctic within the next 5 years. Well, 5 years came and went. There was actually 50% more ice in the Arctic than when he said that. So Al Gore is not telling the truth. He's trying to make a bunch of money off a bunch of suckers. Why do you think he's buying beachfront properties and all these millions of dollars he's made on this scam? This needs to be absolutely rejected. Fortunately, President Trump has indicated that he understands that this is a hoax, but we as the American people need to continue pushing. We need to make sure our members of Congress know that we do not support this hoax. We are not on board with giving Al Gore and his cronies $15 trillion, and we need to just say no. Check out the articles beneath, and please continue to follow us here at the New American Magazine. Thank you.